Welcome back everyone for another episode of Chef Loseto Cooks at Home. I'm happy to be here with you guys. So we had a request for this episode to do hot cross buns, and to be honest, I've never actually made hot cross buns, or actually I don't think I've ever had a hot cross bun. Here we go. So the first and most important thing is that we activate the yeast. So to activate the yeast, you wanted to get it at 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and you use a handy thermometer. If it gets too hot or if it's not cold enough, it could create problems with your recipe. So what you want to do is mix the sugar, the milk, and the yeast, and you want to just let it sit for about 5 minutes. And what's going to happen is it's going to sort of bubble and activate. And once it's activated, you can try the recipe. So for the recipe, we have bread flour, we have egg with allspice, cinnamon, vanilla, and nutmeg. Butter that's been room temperature. Now it's very important that the butter is not warm or melted, and it's not cold. It has to be sit out. Even if you let it sit out overnight, it'll be probably better, covered of course. Brown sugar and dry fruit. Now the dry fruit calls for raisins or currants. We have here raisins, currants, and I had some apricots, so I chopped some apricots and we're gonna put some apricots in it. I don't know if I'm breaking any sort of rule or anything, but that's what we're doing. So we're going to start first with the milk. So as you guys can see, I'm sporting a new beard. That is my COVID-19 beard, and I'm not going to shave until this is all over. I'm not very used to having a beard. I haven't had facial hair or hair for about 30 years. I know for some of you guys that have worked with me, you'll be very surprised, so there you go. I'm actually going to stop it. Try that again. I'm just going to add the dry fruit. Okay. And then I'm going to start it again. Right? And then we're just going to put the rest of the flour in. Right, so now you're going to mix this for about 2 to 5 minutes until it sort of pulls away from the side, and the dough itself is going to be a bit sticky. So if you put too much flour in and it's like really firm, you've probably made a mistake somewhere. Right, so at this point, right, we're going to shut it off. And we're going to take our spatula and we're just going to scrape down the sides. If you can smell it, like just the smell alone, like of the vanilla and the nutmeg and the allspice is just amazing. Just gonna mix it till it pulls from the sides a bit. It's a little bit wet still. If you were to touch it, we're not gonna need the extra flour. Okay? So if you were to touch it, right, it's sticky, but you can easily sort of form a ball. Okay, so now we have our punched dough, right? That's been sitting for 2 hours. Right, so what we're gonna do is I don't have a bench cutter, that's why I'm using the knife, but if you have a bench cutter, it'd be better to use a bench cutter. What we're going to do is we're just going to divide it evenly, so you don't have to weigh it, just sort of use your eye. And you're going to divide it equally, 16, right? A little flour onto your work surface, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take it, right, and you're going to shape them. And when you shape them, right, you want to use the palm of your hand, and your knuckles go underneath it, and they're going to come out nice and round like a bun. So what you want to do is you want to sort of keep them close together. You don't want to add too much flour on the surface, because if you add too much flour, if you notice the flour is up here, and we're just going to put a little bit as we need it so it doesn't get sticky. But if you put too much, you can't roll it. The nice part about it is the sugar glaze that goes on top. It's quite delicious actually. I mean, they make it really sweet. So inside actually is not that sweet, but the glaze on top really makes it. I'll just spray the top just a little bit, and then we're gonna cover it with Saran wrap, and we're just gonna let it proof for another hour. And after 1 hour, they're ready to bake. The recipe that we're following, it doesn't call for egg wash, but we found through our tests that the egg wash was actually nice. It would make sense that egg wash was on there anyway, but we're gonna egg wash it. So just flour and water in a piping bag with a little hole, piping hole, and we're just gonna make crusts. Crosses are on, and we're going to bake this at 350 for about half an hour or so. Okay, here we go. So the buns are out of the oven, and they look really good, and they smell fantastic. So I'm sure they're going to taste fantastic. So the icing pretty much is icing sugar and orange juice. All right, so you give it a good stir. Right, nothing too complicated, and you want to put these on when they're sort of warm but not super hot. So not right away when they come out of the oven. Wait about 5 minutes, right? And you want to just put them on top. Now it looks like a lot, but it's going to melt. And the buns themselves are not that sweet. There is, obviously you saw the brown sugar that went in them, but when you taste them, they're not that sweet. I did add a pinch of salt to the icing. So that's not in the recipe. If you want a little insider tip, a little pinch of salt in some of the sweets and make it taste really good. All right, so there you go. These are your hot crust buns. Not too difficult to make. Everything is pretty standard as far as ingredients, and tastes and smells and looks delicious, and I think everybody will love them. So it'll be a good, nice little treat while we're all stuck at home and waiting for things to get better. There you go. Enjoy, and thanks again for watching.